Welcome to the Real CP Show. I am your host, CP. And today's topic, this particular devious anti-Black American fleer, Continental African version, hates on the Black teen Karmelo Anthony, and she has her own internal hatred of herself, and also she has her internal hatred toward her own numbers of African brothers and sisters. You said, what? Yes. I'm like, all that internal hatred she has. So the thing about it is, relating to this topic, there are people who know about Karmelo Anthony, and there are people who don't know it. We're not talking about the basketball player. But Karmelo Anthony, in a nutshell, was a Black teenager up in Frisco, Texas area that was at a track meet sometime last year, minding his business. And so he was sitting under this one of those little things in this little stadium, keep away from the weather and stuff like that. Well, this Austin Metcalf and Howard brother came over there, and it's alleged that they also possibly have been bullying and possibly some racial context to them as well, alleged in this situation. And they came over there on a very Jim Crow law, I'm telling you, you can't be here type of mentality. Went over to this Black teenager and told him you can't be there at a public track meet. And so they started pushing and stuff like that, acting like racial savages, right? Anti-Black savages, allegedly. And he pours out a juke knife on them and juiced Austin Metcalf and to unalivement. And there were a number of people that went crazy on that, right? They just completely ignored that. Who told Austin Metcalf and his brother go over there in a straight Anglo line, right? To sit there and tell Karmelo Anthony he can't be there. You understand that? And then they put their hands on him first. Let me say this again. They put their hands on him first. And he pulled out a juke and juke one of them in self-defense, and that was it. Oh, people went crazy. He shouldn't have a knife. What was that a knife for? Missing the whole freaking point, right? Do you understand? Because if that had been vice versa, those black twins or those Black brothers, they should have put their hand on Austin Metcalf. He was just defending himself. I mean, golly. I mean, the racial ambiguous reaching for whatever they can to sit there and deflect from reality is atrocious. But this is what various sections of Americanism are built upon, right? I'm talking about the ones this applies to, right? Constantly anti-Black Americanism. And then act like Black American people are the people who got their hand out. When the biggest receivers of affirmative action and DI is numbers of women within certain sections of the predominant culture and certain numbers of men within the predominant culture. The most criminality type personnel are not Black American males. There are numbers of males within various sections of the predominant culture, right? Do you understand that? And so, related to top, you have this dangerous, diabolical, yucky looking Tether who fled over to America from the ancient continent of Africa with all those resources and things like that, right? Person's parents fled over because they weren't nothing in Africa. This fleer right here, she gets to benefit, or she benefit off of playing within cosplaying Black. And has the nerve to sit there and talk about Karmelo Anthony. I'll play it just a little bit, but I want to set the direction up on that. Now I want you to understand, these type of tellers, again, are extremely dangerous. They will lie and they will show deceit. They're the kind of people that will go tell KKK, I know I know I have some darkness in them, but I'm not like those Negroes over there. Right? And they'll look at her and say, you don't get your monkey looking Negro self or African version out of our faces. Well, why? I tell you what those kind of Negroes are doing. Because this is how dangerous these tellers are. They have no clue about true Black American history. Because they are just like this. This is what that teller that I'm talking about. She's just like this when they look at Black Americans. Right? So the thing about it is, let me sit there again. I said, let me sit there and show this. Let me start this part here. She'll talk about how Black Americans and basically doing a lazy kind of conversation. You like, I know you ain't trying to call Black Americans lazy or they all talking about racism. And you be like, the people who have built the foundation of America, besides certain ones put on this culture, who's had the most hatred put upon them, the most hate crimes, laws, policies put upon them, right? Segregation all over the freaking place, out there, formal slavery of at least a minimum of a couple of centuries, and no reparations whatsoever, no anti-Black American hate crime. And this fool teller who is less than 20-something years of getting naturalized, right, with her fleeing parents got the nerve as latecomers to talk about Black Americans when they came and fixed SHIT in their own country that they fled from with all that tribalism going on. And again, I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters over there in the continental part of Africa. They know who they are. They know they can't stand these little despicable tellers like Hero. And some of the good brothers and sisters from Africa that are over in America, those are going to be some, because the system would not allow a majority of continental Africans to come over to America unless they have a hatred or unless they sit there and kiss the ring of supremacy that says, we will do your bidding and hatred toward Black Americans. Now, we'll fool them, but we will do y'all hatred toward them. You understand? This is a show I did on the Real CP show. I'm going to show you something. Dozens of Nairobi, Kenyan male teens murdered Kenyan teen boy. Now, this little teller, dastardly, devious teller, she ain't going to talk about the problems going on in various parts of Kenya. Various tribalism problems, corruption, inhuman poverty, high unemployment. Oh, she ain't going to talk about that. You understand? Let me sit there and show you something else for a second. Now, again, just keep it in mind on this. She's a tether fleer. She has animosity. She has a hatred for Black Americans. She has hatred. This is even the extra dangerous because she has a dangerous internal hatred for her African brothers and sisters. So this is doubly hated. This is doubly dangerous on that situation. See, she's the kind of personnel within, not her personally, but that person within them, they'll be right there in front of the colonizers saying, hey, what else can I do to sit there and round up these other sorry African Negroes? Wait a minute, you're from Africa. I'm not like the Africans. Who you African? I'm not like those. This is the kind of dangerous one that would do that. She'll help the colonizer put numbers of her tribes on a slave ship. This is how dangerous this kind of one is. And then she flees over her parents over to America and becomes even extra dangerous because she'll cosplay Black American. Do you understand? Oh, they are in the mix. They're in the mix within the mist in Americanism. Now, let me sit there and share this screen. I'm going to sit in the foundation. This is going to be a real quick show on that part. Yes, I showed you that first one. Now, look at this one right here. This is the other one I did on the Real CP show part. She won't talk about this. This Nigerian national convicted transnational inheritance fraud scheme. She won't talk about the major criminality, the major high unemployment, what's also called Japa, when the young people are fleeing from Nigeria as well. High pregnancy rates. Again, corruption. Inhuman, barely, what do you call it? Minimum wage. The nerve. Infrastructure messed up. Foreign intervention, various places. But major trouble is going on, but she ain't going to talk about that part. Do you understand? See, she's a very dangerous one, right? Again, this is how she look at numbers of Black Americans. Matter of fact, this is how she probably look at numbers of our own African brothers, African brothers and sisters. And again, I'm not talking about some of the good African brothers and sisters. They know what's reality, right? On that. So I think I got one more thing I want to show you before I just show this particular video, because these kind of things that must be talked about. Oh, I got to play this. I'm sorry. Got to do this right quick. Karmelo Anthony, if I already kind of relayed that over about who he was, she's trying to make excuses for that, and then he went into her anti-Black American demonic rhetoric, right? Making excuses. But you want to talk about this. A Black teen in LA was racially attacked by numbers of violent Hispanics at an LA, Los Angeles high school. Where was the outrage? No outrage. Many people haven't even seen this show. And this is on the Real CP show on the YouTube. If anybody's maybe interested in going to that site to take a look at that, they can just type in that topic right there, or just kind of scan over the various videos and live podcasts I have on that. To make a long story short, this Black young fellow, I think 13, 14 years old, high school, and what about 14, 15 years old, high school, mind his business. And he was basically attacked by these other Hispanics, calling them all kind of N-word. This is why I can't stand the N-word usage in such publicness like that. It needs to be thrown again to the trash can of space, or some piece of space. The N-word is derogatory. It is not a term of endearment. I've done a podcast on that before. It is a destructive word on that situation. And so, and finishing up this part, something happened where it was a fight, got off campus, wherever it is, or some situation happened where there was a knife that was brought by one of the little violent Hispanics, primarily going to be Mexicanos, the ones it applies to. And all of a sudden, something happened where two people were stabbed. Right? There was no outrage on that. But Karmelo Anthony, he sit there and pulled out a juke knife situation of self-defense against these bullying, what some people saying maybe possibly racial, Austin Metcalf and his brother, possibility, right? There might be some possibility of racial animosity toward them in school, right? I'm just saying, but he protected himself. And you got those people went crazy. He shouldn't have a knife. Instead of sitting there saying those little two cretins should have not went over there and messed with Karmelo Anthony, first of all. Do you understand that? See how that goes, right? Now, there was something else I wanted to show, because there was a guy, let me go back. Let me hurry up, because it's going to be a short show on this, on that. But I got to set the foundation, what I'm doing. Because I don't do shows just because, okay, I did a show and then, oh, well, I do it for some people down the road. They may take a look at it 10 years, 5 years down the road, 6 months down the road, tomorrow, next day, 8 years down the road. You get the point I'm getting at. So this gentleman right here has a good podcast as well. And so as you see right here, we talked about how the Karmelo Anthony, Bad Negro, Austin Metcalf, Good Anglo boy is a pawn game. They know it. I'm just going to play just a few seconds of it at somebody that was at the place itself, right? I'm utilizing this under fair usage doctrine.
Crazy bad. Everybody trying to get back to their cars or get in, places where they, wouldn't get all extra wet. Dude was sitting up on the tent, right? He was on his phone, right? My daughters was up under the same goddamn tent. Yeah. So I'm paying attention to my kids, but at the same time, they're in the same vicinity. So I'm watching everything going on around it because I'm there for my children. So dude walks up, McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent at the time. They came from a whole separate tent and walked over there. They intentionally went over there to this kid, man. Dude was sitting there on his phone just trying to get dry. You feel me? One thing went from another. They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went in his bag and whatever. They went to try to jump this dude and punch on this dude, man. And he protected himself, dude. That's what happened. Yeah.
Oh, they don't want to talk about that part. Do you understand? They don't want to talk about that part, especially this disgusting Tether. right? They don't talk about that part. No. It's just like this right here. Again, they hate their own African brothers and sisters. Like this right here. Oh, they look at them with despising themselves. They look at this kind of African brother over there with despising. So they won't call them lazy. Stuff like that. You understand? So they don't talk about that. They look down upon this type of African brother. Right? There is class system over there in Africa. Again, numbers of good African brothers and sisters, they already know. They already know. Right? They know. And credit given to those who know over there. And credit given to some of the small number of good African brothers and sisters in America. Because again, this system of supremacy, which is the most awesome mental manipulation force that has ever existed, they're not going to allow a majority of good type African brothers and sisters to come over to America and do their thing. It don't work like that. They'll allow a certain number within Africanism, right? And some slip through the cracks. But the overallness, they're going to be ones that have animosity toward Black Americans. Again, look what's going on. And they're not trying to integrate themselves with other Africans, people. Again, you don't hear it, you don't sit there and hear numbers of, again, Somalians jumping up and down with Eritreans jumping up and down with Ethiopians. You don't sit there and hear numbers of Nigerians jumping up and down for Togolese people. Do you understand? You don't hear numbers of Nigerian people jumping up and down for Ghanaians. You don't hear numbers of Moroccans jumping up and down for Congolese. You don't hear Congolese jumping up and down for South Sudan. You don't hear South Sudan is jumping them down with, or North South Sudan, jumping them down with South Africa. Do you understand? Because there's hundreds and hundreds of tribes, hundreds of languages, right? But you got people that play this little sorry game that y'all Negro, FBA people, whatever you call yourself, you call yourself Africans when they don't even practice Pan-Africanism like that. In Africa, do you understand? Well, 50 plus countries, and you thinking many are going to practice Pan-Africanism, please. Hey, that is outdated. The last major time was what could have been true Pan-Africanism was the 90s, people. It is over with now. So again, this Tether, she don't want to talk about this type of African brother. She don't care. But like how many fleers, right? That the parents fled, or this kind of one fled, they hate their own kind. And they have animosity toward Black Americans because Black Americans don't flee. You understand on that. But again, you know, the Tether, this particular hateful Continental African that fled Tether, the one supplies in this situation, she looks like this toward Black Americans, right? Because again, she's the kind of again that will sell out numbers of Black Americans left and right to the Klan if she could. She'll sell out her own numbers of African brothers to the Klan if she could. That's the scary ones like that, right? She's a very scary one, very dangerous one. So I wanted to set that foundation for that so I can get to this particular point now. And where to go? Let me start with, hold on, this one start with this one? I don't want to start with this one, but let's look at this title. What President Trump said about Nigeria. Now, this is a fleer, a dangerous, should we say, poisonous internal fleer that fled from Africa herself. Her parents fled from Africa as fast as they possibly could to get away from other people that look like them in Africa, right? Because they can't stand other Africans. And they fled, came over to America, cosplay Black, right? Fake smiled in front of those Black Americans. You're my brothers and sisters, right? While at the same time, she's sitting there sending daggers, internal daggers at them. You understand? Why she's sitting there showing hatred to her own African brothers and sisters. What President Trump said about Nigeria. But that's not the one I want to sit there and show you right now. Because again, this is going to be very short here. I'm going to just show this initial one. I'm going to show that particular category I just showed a second ago. And I'm going to call it a show. Right. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Give me a second. Let me take a look. I gotta look in the background on something here. Okay, make sure on the background here. Okay, just want to make sure something in the background here. Let me. All right, here we go. Place for a second here. I'm utilizing this on the fair uses doctrine. Oh, let me stop that comments here. Let me stop the in the background here. I'm utilizing this again on the fair usage doctrine. And today is April the 15th, 2026. These are the kind of things that need to be talked about and need to be shared even more. And look at that face of devious deception.
Free Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony is home, not for too long, okay? And you wonder why there's so much violence in the Black community. Look at what you guys are supporting. You know, that is why it is okay for a Black man to shoot another Black man and take away his pair of Jordans. That is why. That is why you continue to raise thugs. That is why your community are always run down. No matter what people try to come in there to do, you run them out with violence and nonsense like this. But instead of waking up and realizing that maybe I'm the problem for once in your lives, maybe there's something wrong with us, you continue to blame it on the past. You continue to look for excuses, and your excuse is the white man, what the white man did to us. So you're in that bondage, and that's why you can't grow. That's why you can't make progress in life.
This is a very dangerous, extremely dangerous Tether. She has a nerve talking about Black Americans when she can't even fix nothing in her own country of tribalismness. I showed you a couple of different titles of some shows I did where various violence going on in Ghana, violence going on, criminality going on in Nigeria. Look at South Sudan, what's going on in South Sudan, just treacherous. Just all kind of messed up stuff in South Sudan, right? North Sudan, going all this kind of situation. You got the Boers, the Afrikaners in what we call it, South Africa, still sitting there to control all kind of things. You understand? High poverty, infrastructure, all messed up in various parts of Africa. Chinese over there taking over various parts of Africa. Lebanese in Africa, India, Africa. Various Europeans taking over various parts of Africa. Right? You understand, right? International Monetary Fund sitting there giving loans to various parts of Africans that they can't even pay back. Right? High poverty going on in Africa. Just inhuman minimum wage sits there in various parts of Africa. High single motherhoods in Africa. Dirt roads in Africa. Just inhumanness. Almost like pre-colonizer in certain situations in Africa. Again, I'm talking about the places it applies to. And she's going to have the nerve to talk about Black Americans. The majority of Black Americans will make more money, what they have right now, than quite a number of places in Africa right now, people. There are quite a number of Black Americans with formal degrees than quite a number of personnel in various parts of Africa. Again, it's what the places it applies to. Do you understand? The majority of Black Americans in America are in the middle class, people. She couldn't even, her tribalism self, she couldn't even come close to the number of achievements that Black Americans have done in America. See, this is the kind of dangerous, I've despised these kind of tethers right here because they show up at the half a blink of a second in America's history. As it's already been built up by primarily Black Americans on that in some parts of person that within the Potomac culture. After all these hate crimes and these minimum of a couple of centuries, right? Black Americans being on plantations working for free, and then get out of that with no 40 acres in a mule. Right? But at the same time, how many numbers of personnel within the Potomac culture sit there and had their hand out and getting free homestead land all over the freaking places? Not earned. Huh? Getting a form of what we call affirmative action to help numbers of them out. Unearned. Once applies to. But she says nothing about that. What about the bestiality that numbers of within certain parts of Potomac culture practice in? What about white on white crime that is emergency epidemic around relating to various parts of America? What about that part? She don't talk about that because she's a scared little donkey shit of a Tether, right? But again, like I said to you earlier, she's also a very dangerous Tether relating to her own people, right? Now, again, like I said, she's a cretin of despicableness. This is how she look at Black Americans, right? And again, some people can believe it or not believe it.
I don't believe this is happening. Only fools refuse to believe the truth.
Yes, yes. So I think the last particular video I want to show of her on that, again, when I relate over it, she's a dangerous one to her own people as well, various sections of Africa on that, right? Again, I'm utilizing this on the fair uses doctrine.
President Trump redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern back in November, saying Christians were being targeted and authorities were failing to protect them. That was an exaggeration. It's the reality.
We are here in the evening, and unfortunately, wicked terrorists came and attacked our people, and then we have counted scores of people who are now dead, and then so many others are also in the hospital receiving treatment.
Again, gunmen attacked a university community in Nigeria's Central Plateau State Sunday night, killing at least 30 people. They entered the community and opened fire on civilians. Nigeria needs help. Villages are being burned down. People are living in fear. Fulani herdsmen and Islamist terrorists continue attacking Christian communities. This isn't isolated. It's a pattern. And I know some people will say, why can't they help themselves? There are several reasons, but the most obvious is resources. There is no Second Amendment there for most citizens. The bad guys are armed, while Christian communities, especially in rural areas, often are not. They lack weapons, training, and organization needed to defend themselves against well-armed extremist groups. This isn't about politics. It's about innocent people being slaughtered while the world looks away.
Yeah. I despise this cretin. So she felt some sympathy on that part, while at the same time, she still has the hatred for her own African brothers and sisters. Because it's still in her little messed up mind, she still is relaying over how, well, they basically should also be responsible for what's going on in Nigeria. And who are the personnel who is doing this to the various types of Nigerians over there? Certain various sections of Nigerians, right? Various types of tribalism part, the ones it applies to, right? But you see how that goes. So let me play this one more time, okay?
Of particular concern back in November, saying Christians were being targeted and authorities were failing to protect them. That was an exaggeration. It's the reality.
We are here in the evening, and unfortunately, wicked terrorists came and attacked our people, and then we have counted scores of people who are now dead, and then so many others are also in the hospital receiving treatment.
Again, gunmen attacked a university community in Nigeria's Central Plateau State Sunday night, killing at least 30 people. They entered the community and opened fire on civilians. Nigeria needs help.
I just want to play the part again. Do you understand how one minute she's playing the fences part? Well, it's their responsibility, right? Without kind of saying it to a certain point. And then at the same time, say, they need help. You're from a great ancient continent of Africa. Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in Africa, has some of the most big-time resources in Africa. And you go, well, they need help. But at the same time, Black Americans who have had to fight being the small numbers in America for centuries. Do you understand? While building this country up, going through black pain, hateful crime, hateful criminality laws and policies. Do you understand that? For centuries, even to right now, 2000 to 2026, still, Black Americans have the most hate crimes put upon them than anybody else, and still get no reparations. Still no anti-American hate crime law. Do you understand how crazy that is? But at the same time, reparations given to border break illegal immigrants. You got numbers of congressional people, the ones applies to, they want to give free legalness. And however many border break illegal immigrants do get free legalness, don't get it confused. Indirect and direct. But you got high numbers of congressional person that once applies to that are pro-immigrant numbers, pro-immigration first, America second, and Black Americans, they look at them like on the last of the list because they don't care. Because they want more chain migrants. Oh, that's a whole different topic. I will say something. That's a whole different topic. Because they want more immigrationists to be able to bring numbers of their immigration families over. Numbers of the want border break illegal immigrants to come over even more. It's a whole different game. But what I'm getting at, this Tether Cretin has a nerve to talk about Black Americans. What if they had to go through all that? Still going through it. Right? And try to talk about Black Americans? I don't know what it's going to take for more Black Americans to get tired of this bull of these tethers. I mean, just outright disrespecting Black Americans left and right. And you got numbers of Black Americans act like nothing, just act like nothing is going on. Oh, well, then, while at the same time getting pushed out. Not individual, fool. This ain't individual. This is a collective. These people are tethering over to America not to sit there and like one another. Middle East, Continental Africans, the ones applies to, they don't like each other. They're not getting together in America, people. I've already made that example, analogy earlier. There is no pan-African love in the United States. They're overall out for themselves. But many of them tell Black Americans, hey, man, you're my brothers, you're my sisters. Are they some numbers that'll try to tell Black Americans, you're Africans? Please, Black Americans are their own unique culture, fools. Right? You're not going to tell the various Zulu tribes, you know what? Just call yourself Africans first. You're not going to tell the various types of tribes in East Africa, just call yourself Africans first. West Africans, just call yourself Africans first. You're sure not going to tell numbers of Arab Egyptians, hey, just call yourself Africans. They're like, we ain't Africans. You out your freaking mind. Some person else, well, they don't have to say it because in Africa, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant on that. Black Americans are told, well, they supposed to call each other what other people need them to call them. But Black Americans can't sit there and have their own Black Americans' unique culture. Do you understand? Well, again, what many Africans don't even like, when the numbers of personnel from various parts of Africa over there don't even call themselves Africans. So, of course, when they go by their tribe, they say call themselves tribes first. But Black Americans, they're not supposed to call themselves Black Americans. They're supposed to call themselves Americans first. Right? Why not being treated as Americans first? Right? You understand? Black Americans, but other people can call themselves Chinese Americans, Haitian Americans, right? Iranian Americans, you get Native Americans. All right, but Black Americans can't do that, right? You see how the game goes. So I just wanted to show you that particular part. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show. And as you see on this image again, I cosplay Black Americans while hating them. I don't even like my own African brothers and sisters. I wish I was Anglo so bad. Yes, they do. Again, I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.